Give me a sword. I'm ready to fight. Let's go. Dalinar! Just, done, and he's about to die, and all his men are about to die. The Way of Kings by Brandon Sanderson is without doubt one of the greatest fantasy books ever written. And it is my personal favorite book of all time. And with book 5 in the series coming out later this year, November 2022, I thought it'd be nice to go back over book 1 and just review some quotes from it that just really have stuck with me all through the series. There's a ton of quotable material in all of his books. This one we're just going to be focusing on book 1, Way of Kings. And man, there's some really good lines in this book, and there's some great scenes as well. Now, what I would love to do and will do next time I read The Way of Kings, I've read it twice so far, is to actually make my own highlights and my own quotes notebook so that I can just flip through my own personal favorite quotes. But as of yet, I have not done that. So next best thing is Google. Because it takes a minute to go through and read the entire Way of Kings. It's fairly lengthy. So what I did was go through Goodreads and find people's favorite quotes from The Way of Kings, from just the first book. And I went through and I picked a few that are my favorite. And there are a couple of these that are not labeled as far as who said them in the books, which character. For those, I'm actually going to guess. I have not looked them up to check. So if I get one of those wrong, just put it down in the comments. I'm sure y'all will keep me straight. So without further ado, let's get into the quotes. "What did you put in the fire?" Kaladin said, "to make that special smoke." "Nothing, it was just ordinary fire. But I saw, what you saw belongs to you. A story doesn't live until it is imagined in someone's mind." "What does the story mean then?" "It means what you want it to mean," Hoid said. "The purpose of a storyteller is not to tell you how to think, but to give you questions to think upon. Too often, we forget that." So this one is a little bit of Hoid being Hoid, and a little bit of Brandon Sanderson being extremely meta, which he loves to do. Down to the fact that The Way of Kings is the title of a book. One of the characters in The Way of Kings is reading. And that is the same for all of the Stormlight Archive books. The name of the book is a book in the book. He likes to get very meta. And of course, you gotta love Kaladin. He doesn't know what's going on. He's just trying his best. And then Hoid's coming in there and just doing all kind of crazy stuff. "Sometimes the prize is not worth the cost. The means by which we achieve victory are as important as the victory itself." I mean, that's Dalinar. Everyone knows that's Dalinar. Which Dalinar is probably the most quotable character in the first book. Has a lot of those, inspirational, go get 'em quotable quotes. Which is that's one of the reasons we love Dalinar. He's a stand-up guy. At least he is now. Previously, it's a whole different story. "Strength does not make one capable of rule. It makes one capable of service." Again, I'm 99% sure that's Dalinar. I actually think that may be Dalinar quoting The Way of Kings in The Way of Kings. "Authority doesn't come from a rank," Kaladin said, fingering the spheres in his pocket. "Where does it come from?" "From the men who give it to you. That's the only way to get it." And that's Kaladin's kind of story in this whole first book is just people respect him. People want to follow him, even when times when he doesn't want to lead people. But that's, the way you get authority is not by taking it. No one can assign it to you. It's people that follow you give you that. People want to give Kaladin that. So he ends up stuck with a lot more authority than he really wants for most of this book and most of the rest of the books, actually. "Brightness, I believe you stray into sarcasm. Funny, I thought I'd run straight into it screaming at the top of my lungs." Shallan. Very much Shallan. "Overcome your guilt. Care, but not too much. Take responsibility, but don't blame yourself. Protect, save, help, but know when to give up. They're precarious ledges to walk. How do I do it?" Again, I'm pretty sure that's Kaladin struggling with people putting him in authority when he doesn't like authority. He doesn't want it. He's had enough of it. Doesn't know how to do it. In his mind, when in reality, he's really, really good at it. "An excuse is what you make after the deed is done, while a justification is what you offer before." That sounds like Yasna. So someone check me on that. I don't remember exactly where that quote's from, but my money's on Yasna. A man's emotions are what define him, and control is the hallmark of true strength. To lack feeling is to be dead, but to act on every feeling is to be a child. That is classic Dalinar giving a lecture. Not sure who to, but he tends to, like, that is scolding someone under you in your command 100% right there. And that's one of the things that Dalinar does better than anyone else. If I should die, Dalinar said, then I would do so having lived my life right. It is not the destination that matters, but how one arrives there. The codes? No. The Way of Kings. That storming book. Now, obviously, it's Dalinar speaking there, but I'm pretty sure he's talking to Navani in that one. Could be his nephew, but 99% sure that's Navani. Also love how he makes up curse words for all of his books, so that's storming great. Of all the recruits in his cohort, he had learned the quickest. How to hold the spear, how to stand to spar. He'd done it almost without instruction. That had shocked Tux, but why should it have? You were not shocked when the child knew how to breathe. You were not shocked when a sky eel took flight for the first time. You should not be shocked when you hand Kaladin Stormblessed a spear and he knows how to use it. Kaladin is just a badass. That's all that has to be said. I mean, he is. He's definitely one you want on your side. Kaladin screamed. Reaching the end of the bridge, finding a tiny surge of strength somewhere, he raised his spear and threw himself off the end of the wooden platform. Launching into the air above the cavernous void, Bridgeman cried out in dismay. Seal zipped around him with worry. Parshendi looked up with amazement as a lone bridgeman sailed through the air towards them. His drained, worn-out body barely had any strength left. In that moment of crystallized time, he looked down on his enemies. Parshendi with their marbled red and black skin, soldiers raising finely crafted weapons as if to cut him from the sky. Strangers, oddities, in carapace breastplates and skull caps, many of them wearing beards woven with glowing gemstones. Kaladin breathed in, like the power of salvation itself, like the rays of sunlight from the eyes of the Almighty. Stormlight exploded from those gemstones. It streamed through the air, pulled invisible streams like glowing columns of luminescent smoke, twisting and turning and spiraling like tiny funnel clouds until they slammed into him. And the storm came to life again. It still gives me chills every time. Like that, again, not a quote, but that moment is just, that's why he loved Kaladin. Like, he had no idea that was going to work. He didn't have a plan for that. He was literally sacrificing himself to save his men and try to do what he thought was right. And in that last moment, everything worked out for him. And that is such a hard thing to do as an author. The setup for that was all there. It's not like it just came out of nowhere. We knew he could get Stormlight out of gemstones. We knew the Parshendi wore gemstones in their beard. But it was so well crafted and put together that you never really put two and two together until right at that moment. Or at least I didn't. It's very, very satisfying payoff. Your insult has offended me. If we were at the peaks, we would have to duel in the traditional fashion. Which is what? Tef asked. With spears? Rock laughed. No, we upon the peaks are not barbarians like you down here. How then? Kaladin asked, genuinely curious. Well, Rock said, it is involving much mud beer and singing. How is that a duel? He who can still sing after the most drinks is the winner. Plus soon everyone is so drunk that they forget what the argument was about. Tef laughed. Beats knives at dawn, I suppose. That is one thing I did not see enough on Goodreads, at least in the first couple of pages of people's favorite quotes, is where's Rock? Rock is one of my favorite characters. He's got a heart of gold. He's just a great guy. Feels like he's your neighbor that's having a barbecue out back. It's just a nice guy. He doesn't even fight. He makes soup. I mean, you gotta love Rock. He's the best. Airsick lowlanders. We fight here because we understand. The end is the same. It is the path that separates men. When we taste that end, we will do so with our heads held high, eyes to the sun. I am not ashamed of what I have become. Other men may debase themselves to destroy me. Let them have their glory, for I will retain mine. Dalinar! Just, some of those speeches he gives, like when everything is just like done and he's about to die and all his men are about to die. He knows how to rally the troops. I'll just give him that. Like, I'm ready. Give me a sword. I'm ready to fight. Let's go. A woman's mind is her most precious weapon. It must not be employed clumsily or prematurely. Much like the aforementioned knife in the back, a clever jab is the most effective when it's unanticipated. Again, Yasna, but that quote definitely makes me think of my wife. Her mind is definitely a weapon. That's all I got to say about that. I didn't say he isn't a bastard. I said he's just a likable bastard. He hesitated, then grimaced. Those are the worst kind. When you kill them, you end up feeling guilty for it. Maybe Dalinar, but honestly, I don't remember who said that. I feel a little bad about that because that's a great line. But if you do know, without having to reread the entire Way of Kings, put down in the comments, help me out on that one. You really think it was a good trade, don't you? Kaladin said, amazed. Dalinar smiled in a way that seemed strikingly paternal. For my honor, unquestionably. And that is without doubt my favorite quote from the entire book. That moment when Dalinar and Kaladin have survived when they really shouldn't have, and they've made it all the way back to the war camps, and Dalinar's like, well, I'm buying all your bridgemen. And he's just like, no, you can't have them. There's no price you can pay that would be more satisfying to me than killing them all. So they're mine. You can't have them. Kick rocks. And Dalinar doesn't even hesitate. Just slams the sword down and is like, boom. How about that? The sword for all of them. And it's just like that I didn't see coming. Fight maybe, some other way around it, but giving up Oathbringer, like, never saw that coming. And the way he did it too, it wasn't like he was torn about it or like he thought it was some big sacrifice. Like Kaladin said, he's like, you think this was a great deal. And in his mind it was no question. If you were to ask him, he would say there was no choice. And that's just, if that don't make you just absolutely love Dalinar, then you're heartless and you have no soul. So, best quote of the best book, in my opinion. Fight me on it. Alright, so now you've heard me blather on about all my favorite quotes in the book, or at least some of my favorite quotes in the book. If yours wasn't in here, let me know. What's your favorite quote from the first book? Because there's a lot of my favorite ones from number 2, 3, and 4. But this is just book 1. And with that, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.